Welcome to the Abel Speaks Podcast, where we speak to commonly asked questions by parents who have received a life-limiting diagnosis for their child. We're Daniel and Kelly Crawford, and we're glad that you've joined us. Hello, friends. Welcome back to the Abel Speaks Podcast. And today we're going to ask a question that maybe doesn't always come up in the thick of things, but seems to come up eventually with the families that we get to contact and walk with. And it is surrounding essentially trying again, pregnancy after loss. And so you may be right now in your journey like, I can't even think about that right now. I'm all in the present, in which case that's totally okay to skip this one and know that it's in the archives. But we wanted to go ahead and address it because it does come up so frequently with the families that we serve. And so with that, I think like maybe 20% of the question is like asking about kind of like the physical side of like timing and things like that. But a lot of it is just emotionally, spiritually, just the vulnerability of entering back into another pregnancy and all that that entails after what we just walked through with our child who we love and who we miss. Just, am I ready for that? Is I think really what they're asking. And so would you want to speak to that for us?
Yes, I think the question comes up for some families like during the pregnancy with their child that has the life-limiting diagnosis, and then sometimes it's after the child has passed away. And so all of that is normal. I just want to say I think sometimes families can feel guilty if they're asking that question during the pregnancy, but it's very normal. Mainly just because we all, we're pregnant and we're excited about having a child. And we want to be parents and we're coming to the realization that that might not be our story of getting to parent our child on earth that we're currently pregnant with. So it's very normal to ask that at different points or think through that at different points along the journey. Or I would
even add for our families also that are actively caregiving for their child outside of the womb. There's, similar sentiment. Hey, this journey looks different than we anticipated. And it's like, yes, we want to experience, growth for our family and more kids, but what it looks like to be mom and dad to this child, is there's a lot that goes into that. And so I'm trying to be mindful of when I should consider getting pregnant again in a caregiving space. But so in any one of those, it's something that comes up pretty frequently. And so what kind of counsel would you have?
Yeah. So we got pregnant after losing Abel 4 months later. And so there's that. And so I'm sure there were people in our life that felt like that was really quick and had, some questions of just how we were doing and if we were ready for that. But I'll start with just the physical side. I had a C-section with Abel, and I felt ready just physically. I felt like my body had healed from the surgery by then, mainly because as I was digging into research and talking to my provider, which I would encourage everybody to do on their own, was just that because I wasn't waking up in the middle of the night and losing sleep, and because I wasn't nursing and I was getting really good nutrition and all of these things that can be hard early on when you're taking care of a newborn, that wasn't a part of my journey with Abel. And so my body was able to heal quicker than it probably would have if I was taking care of him. And so from just a physical standpoint, I felt comfortable getting pregnant again. And then we also just talked through like we aren't guaranteed to have another baby, and we're definitely not guaranteed the timing of when that happens. And so just felt like we were going to trust the Lord with that timing and know that he knew exactly who our next baby was going to be if we were going to have one and when that would occur. And so it ended up happening the first month that we were able to get pregnant again. And yeah, even in that, it's like a bittersweet thing of, had Abel lived longer, we probably wouldn't have been able to get pregnant so soon or wouldn't have had that on our radar. And so lots of emotions that go into trying again. But yeah, we felt comfortable with that and just also knew that getting pregnant, we were going to still have 9 months of time to process the emotions of losing Abel and getting to care for him, love him, and then lose him. And so it felt like a decent amount of time to process during the pregnancy as well, where it wasn't like we were going to have a baby the next month. So
yeah. And even on that note, a lot of what parents might feel is that during the pregnancy, just the vulnerability. And so, just things we'll hear sometimes to not necessarily speak to or counsel, but just it's understandable, natural. You're not crazy if during the pregnancy, it's like every appointment is just like anxiety inducing and, oh, I'm waiting to get, see that these levels are, oh, and we need you to come in for an extra. And your mind might be telling you just, okay, when's the next thing going to happen that's going to be unexpected, that because of the way that things, happened with my first pregnancy, is something going to happen again this time? All those are understandable and natural emotions. And so really maybe the best thing that we could say and leave you with, and this is more just personally from us, is I think in those moments, what was helpful to come back to is, yes, the fact that we loved and lost our firstborn child is forever the most painful and difficult thing that we'll ever walk through, and that's not going to change. But at the same time, getting to become parents and getting to have Abel as our son and getting to love him and know him for exactly who he was something that we wouldn't trade for the world. And so this notion of, had we even known what was coming and that our time with him was going to be limited, I think what we tell these families when they ask is like, I think we're both saying yes to that again, to get to know and love and cherish Abel, rather than some parallel universe where we maybe avoid the pain of losing him, but we avoid the joy of knowing him. That's not a trade that we even want to make. And so even if, just capture the thought as it happens, and even if something surprising comes up with this subsequent pregnancy, because it might, we rest in those sentiments that I just articulated, of knowing that these are our kids that the Lord has entrusted to us, that we love, that we wouldn't trade anything about or anything for. And so,
yeah, I think what you often say is like, we wouldn't write Abel out of our story if we had the choice. And so that is something that we thought about a lot when we decided to try again. It was like, if that is a part of our story, we wouldn't write this subsequent child out of it either. And so that brought comfort and peace to us, I think. And
another way of saying that is just in the narrative of our lives, that is, as it's still being written, we look back on that earthly time with Abel not as like a net negative, like something hard we had to get through. We look back on it as a positive. We see his life as a gift, as a blessing, and all the hard stuff that came along with it. That's how we feel, and that's how we forever view our son, and that's the perspective that we hope to offer to the families that we get to intersect with at any point in their journey, including wherever you are right now.
Yeah. So short answer, there's no right or wrong. I say that a lot to the families that we get to walk with, and I'm sure they at some point start rolling their eyes at me. But in all of these choices, there's no right or wrong. Like I said, we got pregnant 4 months after Abel passed away. We have families that we've walked with that it's 6 months, a year, 3 years, 5 years. And then sometimes they choose not to have additional children. And those are all personal choices that we get to process with, friends, family, people that love us and that we trust, and come to a conclusion that's best for our family. So it is for some a hard decision. And then for other people, they feel excited about getting pregnant again and about getting to, Lord willing, shepherd their children here on earth, subsequent children. So,
yeah, well, I think that's, a good summary of at least, these conversations end up being not short conversations, obviously, when we're connecting with somebody directly, but we hope that wherever this finds you today, that some of those overarching sentiments can be helpful. And I think that wraps up this question for today about getting pregnant again, and wraps up this episode of the Abel Speaks podcast. We'll see you next time. Hey friends, thanks for listening in. We hope this content has been helpful. At Abel Speaks, we exist to support families who have chosen to carry a child with a life-limiting diagnosis, and we want you to know that the foundation of that support is rooted in relationships. And so, if you're a parent in this circumstance, then by all means continue listening in, but we'd really encourage you to reach out by sending an email to support@abelspeaks.org. Again, our heartfelt prayer is that this episode has served you in some way and that we might have the opportunity to serve you further in the future. The Abel Speaks podcast is produced by the team at Sound of a Rose.